The gentle art of conversation. Have we lost it, or was it never there in the first place? And he's loud, he's controversial, and he's off the radio. Why didn't British listeners warm to Caesar's shock jock approach? Now the time is 5:32.
Now to the last of our personal reviews of the year, in which people who've been in the news reflect on the difficulties they faced during 1995. Today's piece starts in February this year, when Talk Radio UK went on air. The new station made its mark by introducing American-style shock jocks to the airwaves. For months it rode out complaints alleging offensive remarks and tastelessness. Eventually, its most controversial presenters, Terry Christian and Caesar the Geezer, were told their contracts wouldn't be renewed. Now Caesar the Geezer tells PM about his 1995.
Oh, woe is me. In February 1995, I joined Talk Radio UK and faced the biggest challenge of my radio career. I've worked for over 15 years in the industry and have achieved highest audience figures wherever I've gone. And now I'm being faced with the biggest challenge of my life. I've never ever had complaints upheld against me by the radio authority. Now I'm being asked by the American investors of Talk Radio UK to ignore the rules and become the nation's #1 shock jock. I was not convinced that an American-style shock jock operation would work in this country, or that I was the right person to carry the flag for Britain. But any reservations that I had were overcome by the support I was offered by the management. This was a marketing ploy through and through, and I was instructed to be as outrageous and controversial as possible in an attempt to launch Talk Radio UK in a blaze of publicity. They didn't care what lengths I went to or how far I even broke the rules, just as long as Talk Radio UK got its publicity. By the end of the third month, the operation was, well, it proved to be a complete success. Talk Radio UK was firmly on the map, despite stiff competition and a hostile and bitter press. My own 10-to-1 slot was the most listened to show on the station. And all because I was insulting people? Coming out with a lot of old rubbish? Is this what the future of radio was really going to be like? On the face of it, the strategy had worked, but the strategy makers had overlooked the downside of a shock jock image can bring. Advertisers became very cautious, indeed very cautious, about an association with the station. In August 1995, the new management team were installed, with a task of changing the tarnished image of the station, whilst retaining audience levels. The shock jock image was to be dropped, and I was asked to tone down my style of my show within the guidelines that I'd been previously asked to flout. Well, lo and behold, guess what? They didn't really give me a chance. Terry Christian one day was blasphemous. The radio authority were getting fed up. They'd been slapped in the face many times, but enough was enough. They threatened the radio station. Clean up your image. Get rid of this shock jock image. Terry Christian went. Trouble is, 48 hours after, so did I. Caesar the scapegoat no longer was Caesar the Geezer. But what can I do? I felt betrayed by the management. Setting aside the controversial content of my program, which was, well, cultivated as a means to an end, the show was, after all, the most listened to on that station. The one thing that did strike me, that since I'd been there since February, I'd received over 128 complaints. Only 15 of those complaints were upheld, and all those complaints were virtually sent in by one man. Well, I'm doing TV now. What is my future in radio? What I've always said, shock jocks don't work in the UK.
Caesar the Geezer on his 1995.